Greetings everybody, Sam Windisch, Windisch Gunworks. Welcome back to the bench yet again. And today, continuing on with our build, we are talking slide assembly and the subcomponents of the slide. So for today, I have removed the sights out of the gun just to kind of get them out of the way as we work on it, or the slide rather. And specifically what we're talking about today is fitting and tuning the extractor. There's a lot of myth in lore, kitchen table talk about proper methods and what a properly tuned extractor should look like, and what type of voodoo magic you need in order to get this thing tuned properly. Okay, somebody's going to tell you need a special extractor tuning tool that you put in there, and it sets between like a 3-pin bending method, and you bend it, and somebody will say you got to shake it 3 times and hit it with a magic wand, and it'll get it bent just right. And somebody will just say, well, you just kind of eyeball that thing, and yeah, somebody else, and you'll get another you'll get another explanation on it. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm going to show you what I look for a gun that feeds and extracts reliably. Number one, you need the extractor to, well, let's back up a second. Let's talk about what the extractor actually does and why it is important, and why this thing gets blamed so much for feeding and extraction issues and the gun not cycling properly. What this gun does when it's feeding around, it's called a controlled feed, whereas kind of like almost like a Mauser rifle, if you're familiar with a Mauser claw and the controlled round feed that a Mauser style rifle has. When this cartridge is coming up out of the magazine, the rim is sliding up under the claw on the extractor, the lip on the extractor, and up against the breech face at the same time. Okay, so that right there, if the bottom edge of the extractor is too sharp, too rough, causing too much friction, or there's too much tension or too little tension, you're going to have issues with feeding or extracting. If there's too much tension, it may not want to allow the cartridge to come up all the way and make the transition from the magazine into the chamber. Now, may cause a hang up there. That can manifest itself a couple different ways: nose dives, just plain old stoppages. You may just have to do the slight rack back and it goes in. It may manifest itself like that. If there's too little tension, it may feed just fine, but when it goes to extract, you may start getting stovepipes, because there's not really anything giving it that outward tension to get out of the gun when the ejector hits it. Instead of going out like that, it just kind of sits there and bounces in the ejection port, and you'll get a stovepipe, or it'll just be stuck like this, straight. Sometimes you'll see that can be an indication of an extractor with not enough tension on it. It can be a couple different things. But yeah, that's why the extractor gets blamed for so much stuff, because it can be a little finicky if you don't get it just right. There is a sweet spot for an extractor that it needs to be tuned to in terms of tension and profiling the bottom edge here and the claw and whatnot. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to fit this extractor into the gun. Now, if you're doing, first things first, there's 2 things you need to pay attention to when ordering an extractor. Okay, this particular one is a Caspian, and I got the bag right here. Okay, so there's, well, it's only showing one important thing. There are 2 sizes of 1911 gun parts. Okay, there's 38. It's often just called 38 Super. Sometimes it'll be called 9mm, or Caspian here listed as both. But if you see it listed as a 38, same thing, or a 38 Super, same thing. There's only 2 sizes. There's the standard 45 size, and then there's everything else, which is 38 Super 9mm. If you got a 10mm or you're doing a 40, this is the size you want. All right. So this is a 9mm, so it's easy. You just order 9mm size parts. And again, there's only 2 parts. Okay, so it's just the non-45 size part. The second one is what series. So you've either got a series 70 or a series 80. The way to tell for an extractor, okay, this is a series 70 because it's only got the 1 notch here, and that notch is for the firing pin stop to come up and lock it in. A series 80 is going to have another one, okay, about right here, and it's going to be bent a little bit more weirdo because it's got to clear the lifter arm for the firing pin safety in the series 80 design. Okay, series 70 to me is just a lot simpler. Nothing wrong with the series 80 if you know how to tune it right. I don't really mess with them too much, so I would not call myself an expert in series 80. I know there are some conversion kits out there to take your series 80 to use series 70 parts if you believe that series 70 is the way you want to go and you have a series 80 gun. I've never used one, so I'm not gonna try and explain that to you. Okay. There are plenty of other guys out there that have, and I can offer up some great advice on that. But when you go for buying an extractor, and really kind of a lot of the small parts for your gun that kind of interact with the cartridge itself, that's what you want to pay attention to. Same goes for like your slide stop. This is a 9mm slide stop. The difference being this right here, okay, the protrusion on the inside, that it's going to stick out more into the frame, so that it can interact with a 9mm magazine or sub caliber magazine, sub 45 caliber magazine. Same with the firing pin stop. So here's the bag from the firing pin stop. Again, another Caspian part, and I hear you even see it listed as 40 Smith & Wesson. 38 Super 9mm, 4 Smith & Wesson. Again, it's all going to be the same. Sub 45 caliber, it's all going to be the same. The difference here is the cutout here for the ejector is a little bit larger. It goes in a little bit further because it's got to clear, it's up a little bit higher as well, because it's got to clear the different ejector, which you also might guess is also a caliber specific part. Okay, your firing pin as well is another caliber specific part. The sub caliber firing pin is smaller in diameter at the tip. The back is the exact same, okay, but the tip is smaller. Okay, a standard 45 caliber tip is going to be 0.095 inches in diameter. And if I can find my calipers here, I'll measure this one because I forgot. I want to say it's 60 something. Yep, there we go. So it says 66, 65, okay, 65 thousandths nominally, okay. So there's a little bit of difference there. Things to keep in mind, there are some slide manufacturers like Caspian. If you buy any Caspian slide, even a 45 caliber slide, it's going to come with the firing pin hole in all of their slides, including 45 caliber, will come size for the sub caliber firing pin. So that's something to keep in mind. There's nothing wrong with that. You can definitely set off a 45 ACP with one of these firing pins. In fact, a little fun fact for you, Encyclopedia of 1911 knowledge. The original 1911, designed by John Browning, the very first iteration of it, used that size firing pin. The reason they changed it was because during wartime manufacturing, they couldn't get the location of the firing pin hole in the slide the same every time, and so it'd be off center enough that it wouldn't strike the small primer size. Okay, small small pistol primer in the original 45 ACP cartridge. So if you're a 45 ACP loader like me and you like picking up your large pistol primer brass and you hate it when you start picking up brass at the range that somebody else left, and you start noticing that it's all CCI and Blazer and a Federal small pistol primer, and you curse the world and you throw it, well, you can blame John Browning for it. Okay, he's the one who actually designed that. But anyways, because of those the lack of tolerances, they increased the primer size to large pistol primer, and they went to a larger firing pin to make sure that they could always set off the primer. So just a little fun fact, little history fun fact there for you. Okay. Anyways, back to putting these parts together. Okay. So we'll just kind of do a fit up and see what fits and what doesn't. Very easy. So firing pin spring goes on the firing pin. We'll put this in here. We'll see how many hands it takes, and we'll see if I shoot this firing pin up into my ceiling today. So this is another little handy tool. These are pretty cheap. They're extractor removal tools, but then on the back side it's got the little nub right here that's just perfect size for holding these firing pins in, and also for pushing in when you're disassembling your slide as well. Oh snap. Oh wow, okay. So that went in without any trouble actually. Okay, I was actually expecting that firing pin stop to be a little oversized. I thought I was going to get to fit that part for you. Okay. I mean, it doesn't have a whole lot of wiggle, so I'm not really going to complain there. Yeah, normally these cast beams are oversized. Okay. So, disassembly tip. If you're like me and you have the worst luck in the world with little parts and springs, you're gonna lose a firing pin if you don't cover the back end of this thing up. There's probably a couple, two or three firing pins somewhere in my garage right now because I didn't do this. Keep your thumb over the back of your slide when you disassemble this thing, because as soon as that firing pin stop clears out, man, that firing pin's going launching out of here. Okay, so right there. There we go. Okay, now since this thing fits, I guess I'll just kind of go through the motions and show you how I would fit this. It's very simple, guys. It's not rocket science. If this doesn't fit in, or if it's just way too tight, yeah, that's actually a really good fit. There's hardly a rock in there. Okay. Real simple. Just measure the width of the slot here with your calipers. Okay. Measure the width of this. Take the difference, divide it by 2, remove that from either side with a file. Okay, so let's see here. This part is 474. Okay. Let's say this was oversized, the slot was a little smaller, let's say it was 470. Okay, so that's 4 thousandths difference. Divide that by 2 thousandths. Okay, take your file or sandpaper. You could do this on sandpaper, just drag it across sandpaper, but I would do it with a file. Take your file, file until this measures. Remember, we started at 474. 2 thousandths per side, so file until it's 472. Flip it over, file until it's 470, or maybe just a hair under. Okay, maybe you would take 3 thousandths either side just to give you a little clearance until it fit. Okay, so that's actually nice. That's there you go. Wow. Okay. Hey. You get surprised every day, right? Alright. So now for the part I think most of you probably want to see. Alright. Your extractor. Obviously it goes in that hole, okay, flat on the inside to line up on the inside of there. Sometimes these guys come bent already with a little arc. Okay. And that's what it needs. Okay, that way it can be it can have tension on the inside there. Because when you push it in, you may have to push it out. Oh, this is actually going to fit in there pretty nice too. Okay. Something to keep in mind and to watch when you're pushing this thing in, make sure this flat stays lined up with the flats here. Okay. If you don't keep all that lined up when you got it in, oh boy, excuse me. it's not going to be clocked in the correct orientation, and you won't be able to get your your firing pin stop up through it to lock it into place. Okay, so I'm keeping an eye on that, and we're just going to push in. Sometimes if it's clocked just a little off, you can get it. Come on. I typically don't like forcing these things the first time. Okay. This thing's just being a little stubborn. And all I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to get this groove, the grooves matched up so the firing pin stop can slide up in. Okay, so I'm just using the tang of the file just to kind of press everything down flush with each other. Let's see if that's good enough. Okay, so it's not wanting to go in. You could tap this in like a brass punch. Let's see here. Okay, let me get our little soft face hammer. Just to barely tap this thing. Oop, that was too far. So I'm just going to see if I can pry it back up. Okay, there we go. That should be flush. And I'm just softly tapping. I'm not wailing on this thing. There we go. I'm not wailing on it. And I'm using a soft face, okay? This is a copper face mallet. I'm not going to do any damage to anything in this gun. That is being stubborn. Did not think I was going to need to use this. A brass punch. Yeah, I typically don't like to force things like this the first time it's going in the gun. Let's see if I can pop this guy back out. It's probably not clocked just right. Okay. Now we're going to hang that over the edge. So what was going on there? Okay. Well, we can get it to there. So we may be in a case where the groove in the ejector itself is actually too tight for the firing pin stop. And in that case, it's kind of up to you what you want to do. You can either file on the groove in the ejector, or the extractor, or you can file the side of the side of the firing pin stop. I would suggest you go for the firing pin stop and not the extractor. Okay, this thing is just not wanting to go. Okay. So, okay, here we go. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for a wear mark. Okay, and I do have a wear mark, and it's telling me a story. It's the wear marks. Let me see if you guys can see this. No, I don't know. Okay, it's just on the bottom edge of the radius. Okay, if you think of this like a tombstone, okay, it's right on the edge. There's there's scratch marks, wear marks right here. So if you think about the orientation of where this thing is and where it was stopping, okay, let's look at. I mean, it was about right here. Let's look at where the wear marks were. That is right in line with the top edge of our extractor.